Hello everyone, you are watching VM24.com channel and today we are going to disassemble Oppo Find X7 Ultra. First we need to remove the SIM card tray. To do this we use a SIM eject tool, insert it into the hole and carefully push the tray out. Next we need to heat the surface of the back cover to a temperature of approximately 70 degrees Celsius or 160 degrees Fahrenheit. We use a heating mat for this, but you can also use a hair dryer. And after about 10 minutes we can proceed with removing the back cover. To detach or unglue the back cover we usually use a thin plastic film. We insert it into the gap between the back cover and the mid-frame and carefully slide it along the edge, cutting through the adhesive layer. As always, be careful around the side buttons, since flex cables may be located there. Also be careful around the camera area to avoid damaging the lenses. In general, you need to be very careful with this model, because there is definitely a flex cable located under the back cover that runs from the back cover to the motherboard. So we carefully open the back cover. As we can see, the flex cable most likely goes to the microphone and the flash. Now we need to cover the camera lenses. We use special protective film for this. Please note that we apply the film not on the lenses themselves, but on the rim around them. After that, we need to remove the rubber plug. Set it aside, preferably not using a metal tool. Then we unscrew one screw using a 1.5mm Phillips #3 screwdriver. By the way, on this model the screws are poorly magnetized or not magnetized at all, so we need to use tweezers to carefully remove them. And we remove the screw, then detach the bracket that secures the connector. We disconnect the connector that goes to the back cover. Now we can remove the back cover completely. Next, we move on to unscrewing the screws. We use a 1.5mm Phillips #3 screwdriver. As I mentioned earlier, the screws are difficult to pick up, so we use tweezers to remove them carefully. We unscrew the screws and arrange them in a specific order, since they may differ from each other. Also make sure not to miss any screws. Please note that some screws are covered with warranty stickers and some are recessed. After removing the screws, we can detach the upper cover. For this we use a non-metallic tool. Carefully pry it up from the edge and gently lift it. Do not use force. Then we remove the upper cover with the NFC module and wireless charging coil and set it aside. Using a non-metallic tool, we disconnect the battery connector. There is only one here. Then we move on to the lower part. In the lower part we need to unscrew the screws. Again we use a 1.5mm Phillips screwdriver. It is better to keep these screws separate from the previous ones. They may also be difficult to remove. By the way, in the lower section the screws are more or less magnetized. Next we need to remove the cover, but it is better to inspect the loudspeaker first. And well, we're not looking for easy ways. Carefully try to lift the cover and disconnect the coaxial cable, which is routed or seated in a channel in the cover. Carefully remove the cover. There is one contact pad on the cover, set it aside. After that we need to remove the loudspeaker. As before, pry it up in the correct place to remove it. Do not rush and do not use force, as you may damage something. So carefully pry it up, remove the loudspeaker and set it aside. After that we disconnect the connectors. Disconnect the coaxial cable connector and then the cable aside. Disconnect the interconnect flex cable connector, then the other interconnect flex cable connector, and disconnect the display flex cable connector. We can also disconnect the interconnect flex cable from the motherboard and set it aside. By the way, the flex cable has an arrow indicating the direction toward the motherboard. After that, we need to carefully unglue the other interconnect flex cable, carefully lift it, preferably from the connector side, not from the cable side, so as not to accidentally damage the flex cable. We also need to remember to disconnect the fingerprint sensor connector. Do not move the subboard until you have disconnected all connectors. If you forget something, do not use force, so you don't damage anything. So we locate the connector, and now we can carefully lift and flip over the subboard. On the back side there is a second coaxial cable connector. Disconnect it and remove the subboard. The subboard contains the SIM card connector, charging port, microphone and other components on the reverse side. And now our traditional quick microphone opening test. I will talk about both the top and bottom microphones right away. They have an L-shaped design with a membrane located on the back side. The microphone body is mounted on the reverse side of the printed circuit boards. If we insert something into the microphone hole, we won't damage the microphone itself, but we can damage the membrane. By the way, there is a third microphone located on the back cover. The hole there is straight, but the microphone body is mounted on the reverse side on a pad. If we insert something into that microphone hole, we won't be able to damage the microphone itself or the pad. After that, we move on to disconnecting the cameras in the upper section. Carefully pry up the connectors and try lifting them. As we can see, the cameras are disconnected in a specific sequence. First we disconnect the first rectangular camera. Then we need to remove the bracket that secures the connector of the second camera. We can also disconnect the coaxial cable located in the same area as the bracket to avoid accidentally damaging it. Then we disconnect the connector. Now we can remove the rear camera. Carefully disconnect it and lift it up. However, we also need to disconnect the second large rear camera and remove them together. Carefully lift and set the rear cameras aside. And of course, we need to unglue the last small rear camera. It is glued to the motherboard. Carefully pry it up at the base, lift it, remove it and set it aside. After that, we disconnect the connectors. Disconnect the coaxial cable connectors and bend the cables aside so they don't interfere. Disconnect the interconnect flex cable connector and the display flex cable connector. Then we need to unscrew the screws that may be securing the motherboard. For this we use a Phillips H3O screwdriver. These screws are definitely different from the previous ones, so be careful and keep them separate. It is better not to install other screws in these locations to avoid damaging anything. So we unscrew the two screws, and it is better to disconnect the front camera as well. Carefully disconnect the connector, pry it up and remove the front camera. It is also better to cover the camera lens with protective film to prevent debris or dust from getting on it. Now we can safely remove the motherboard. Pry it up at the correct edge, lift it carefully and try to remove it. So we remove the motherboard. It might be held in place on the back side by thermal paste. Do not use force to avoid damaging anything. Carefully remove the motherboard and set it aside. Finally, we move on to removing the battery. There are two black pull tabs that need to be peeled back, as well as a black protective layer that also needs to be folded aside so it doesn't interfere. After that, we pull on one of the tabs to detach the battery. Under the battery there is a transparent protective layer that protects the interconnect flex cables. And that completes the disassembly. Thank you for watching and we'll see you in our upcoming videos either on our Telegram channel or on our website. Okay guys, now we're done. Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, read our articles on our website. Take care of yourself and until next video.